I really wanted to talk to Sophie in Texas. Sophie, you're live with Eric and Seth. What
Hi.
would you like to talk about?
Hi, Eric. Hi, Seth.
Hi.
So I've got a family they're pretty religious, and I guess they're going through a hard time because of the pandemic. And my grandmother lost her husband, I don't know, like 2 years ago maybe, and her dog soon after. And she's been like really like upset, obviously, about that. And recently, my mom kind of got her into this medium thing.
Oh no.
Meetings. Yeah. And I've talked to her about it a few times. I sent videos on hot readings and cold readings. I explained to her kind of like how it happens. I don't know. It upsets me because she's spending her money. Sorry, excuse me.
It's okay.
You made this clear to your mom or to your grandmother?
Both.
Okay.
And they say, well, if it's making her happy, then it shouldn't matter. Like, who cares? But they believe it, obviously. And I've addressed that as well and said, well, it's enabling them to take advantage of other people who maybe don't have, the resources available. And it's, I don't know. It makes me feel like I'm a bad person for
for bringing it up.
Right.
Yeah. So
I just don't know what to do.
What really hurts is it sounds like, if they're dead set in this place that they are already not wanting to listen to you and wanting to buy into this thing, there's really not much you can do. And and continuing to be there and continuing to be you and be awesome and be ready for them, when that time comes is fantastic. But Sophie, it sounds like you're taking the world on your shoulders and you don't have the ability. You just don't. You don't have the ability to affect that change. There's only so much you can do before you're just tormenting yourself. It sounds, I'm sorry that that's happening, but have some self-compassion. You really do got to recognize your place there, and that is that you can be there when they're ready. You can give as much evidence as you can. You can provide all of that, but ultimately you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make them drink. What do you think, Seth?
Sophie, I remember when I came out of religion, I had this earnestness. And I thought, when I go to my religious parents and my religious siblings and my religious friends, and I show them all the stuff that I found, I reveal to them all the problems in the Bible and all the atrocities and the contradictions and the incongruities and just the issues with religions in general and how much better life is here on the other side of the looking glass. Once I make it clear to them, once I show them what I have discovered, they will join me. And we will all lock arms and we will sing Kumbaya. We will frolic off into Reasonville for the rest of it wasn't quite that bad, but I had this idea that people change their minds with data. But what I discovered, and it just broke me in half, was that they had an emotional attachment to their specific God belief. They weren't thinking rationally. So when I came to them with data, their response was to double down, to reinforce. The walls went up. They were not interested in disconfirming information. I was so desperate. I was so frustrated. And at some point, I had to realize that my life is my life. I cannot live their lives for them, nor really do I want to live in a world where I'm living someone else's life for them. That's what I wanted to escape when I came out of dogmatic religions. But my solution, the only one I was able to come up with, beyond showing them what I found the first time, I think it's important to reveal what you have revealed. Here are the problems. Here's how cold reading works. Here's how manipulators manipulate. You've done your due diligence. Beyond that, the best you can do is to live a loud, proud, rational life in full view of them, in the hopes that at some point when they are ready to have that conversation, that you are at an accessible point where they can come to you and perhaps, voluntarily leave that situation. But data so often doesn't change the game. We think it does. We want it to. We think if I just show them the evidence, they'll get it. So often that is not the case. I think you've done all you can do beyond that. I think Eric's right. This is not your mantle to carry. And while it will grieve and hurt you to watch someone else harmed from your vantage, I think also you need to protect yourself a little bit and realize that, you've done all you can do. And in the meantime, you're going to live loud and proud, a rational life in their vicinity in the hopes that one day they will be ready for a conversation.
Yeah.
It's just hard to watch because, they're just, they don't have a whole lot and they're giving it to this guy who's just manipulating them.
And you've made that point. You've made your case.
I have.
Okay.
I have. I showed them, how it's done. Like, obviously I can't do it. I know how they do it, but the hot readings and the cold readings and things, we've explained that. I've showed them videos on that. We've talked about plants, because those. Well, how would they know that? They just know too much. It's just too much. Like, it doesn't.
Yeah.
You can't just guess all those things. Like, they know too much.
Oh, it's like a kick in the teeth. Look, I got somebody on my family tree right now who is on the QAnon train. So I'm sitting back from my vantage, right? And I see them post a wild conspiracy that Bill Gates and Fauci were together at Cornell University and they were coming up with the RFID chip that you hide in the vaccine. And George Soros was there, and the same organization that used gases to kill the Jews is behind the vaccines for COVID. Just wild, wackadoodle conspiracy stuff. And I want to reach through and just shake them, right? I get so frustrated. And all I can do is counter and say, well, this is factually untrue. This is not true. This is not sustained. This is absolutely wrong. And I think it's important we do correct them. But I do so now, not with the expectation that I'm disabusing them of the bad idea. I just think it's healthy for them to know that there is disconfirming evidence, or to at least be presented with it. But I can't make them be rational. It's something I've had to sort of grieve in my own life. But it's also helped me to not carry the burden of who they are, what they think, what they do, and even what harms them. At some point, it's going to have to be on them. And I think you're going to have to draw those boundaries in your own life.
Yeah. And I'm glad that you called in, because this is something that a lot of people call in about. And it sucks. I wish there was, really, if there was a magic bullet that just, you could tell them and boom, they just stop. That'd be amazing. We just don't have that. It just doesn't exist. People are too complex, and give yourself credit. But thank you for calling in.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call. I appreciate both of you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, essentially the question is, because I hear this a lot, it's kind of like, how do we fix the world? Right? It's just so overwhelming. How do you get people to stop acting irrationally? And I'm like, boy, isn't that the squillion-dollar question?
Well, they didn't get there rationally in the first place. That's ultimately it. They just.
And I reject the notion. There's a meme out there, a claim that says you can't reason someone out of something they weren't reasoned into to begin with. I actually think that's bogus. I was reasoned out of my faith, okay? But I also had to come to a point in my own life when I had cracked the door. Because if you'd caught me 20 years ago instead of 15, you'd have caught me when I was sort of this name it and claim it, true blue, fundy, absolutely sure believer. There's no way I was even listening. Something had to happen in my own mind and heart for me to be at least marginally receptive to new information, to have the door crack open. And until somebody gets there, you can show them the data till you're blue in the face, and you're only going to walk away frustrated. So in those instances, I think I make the counter argument and I show them the contradicting evidence, but I don't stick around with any expectation of changing their mind. I think it's healthy that they're shown why it is incorrect, but then I move on to somebody who might be a better candidate, who might actually have the door cracked open and be ready for those deeper conversations.
And it does, and you can't crack that door. I mean, the way that manifested for me is even when there were questions that I couldn't answer, even when it was starting to make less and less sense, I could not accept that it was wrong. I just thought I was broken. There's some broken part of me that is now making me not able to access God, and I need to fix whatever's broken in me. And it wasn't until I could finally move to a place that I could accept that I'm not broken.
Now, there's another one too.
Evidence.
It's a totally wrong-headed way. It's like religious people are stupid or mentally ill. I hate this argument. Religion is an idea, and there are a lot of extremely intelligent people who hold a God belief. In fact, many of those people are better at sort of tap dancing through, at creating the patterns, at arguing in creative ways for a religion. You know, their intelligence causes them sometimes to outsmart themselves. I had one guy, he's hugely intelligent. He's so freaking smart. And I remember having a conversation about his God belief. And he said, well, you know, I think God needs to not make sense, because if he made perfect sense, then it wouldn't require faith for us to believe in him. So the more he doesn't make sense, the more he must be not understood. And that's just fine, because humans should never be able to understand a God. I mean, I saw him just playing Twister.
That is amazing. that is one hell of a pretzel.
And I wanted to shake it. Like, what? What? With heaven and hell in the balance, you are saying that God is essentially a Rube Goldberg mechanism that no one can really understand how it works. And the more nonsensical it is, that means the more true it is. I don't know what to do with that. All I can do is just say, well, you know, I don't think that is, I disagree with that on this premise, boom, boom, boom. But I didn't leave that lunch where we had the conversation with an expectation that I was really making much of a dent. In a healthy way, I presented the counter, but then I moved on to somebody who might be actually more malleable and more interested in pursuing the best ideas.
Hey, but even then, just giving that little piece, you know, letting them know that the whole world isn't just going to agree with them on whatever weird shit they say, but showing, okay, there's someone who disagrees with me. Holy crap, maybe there is a reason I might need to come back and investigate this, is enough, and that's okay.